Good evening, all you hot pod listeners. Thank you for tuning in to our first episode, our inaugural episode of the Hot Podcast. Today, we will be talking about a hidden gem we found on a road trip one time in Virginia. Stay tuned, that was very vague for a reason. We'll also be talking about the very important question of, are moon bounces more fun or are trampolines more fun? Up to debate, maybe, maybe not. We'll see. Also, we'll talk about college and is it the best time of our life or is that just a myth? So stay tuned, listeners.
Hey Marta, how are you doing?
I'm good. How's it going, Adam?
It's pretty good. This is episode 1. I guess I mentioned that in the intro probably already. But should we get into more introductions? I know we had like an episode 0 where we sort of talked about each other, but we're back at it again, sort of trying to feel in our way through all of this. So, who are you, Marta?
Who am I? That's a deep question. I am Marta Chirpak.
No way.
I am a engineer by trade, or by education, I should say. Married to Adam Buckingham, my
That's me, the lucky guy.
co-host over here. We are the proud future owners of a puppy in the future.
Are you just like trying to will it into existence? Is that why you're just putting it on record now?
If I mention it every episode, it's bound to happen at some point.
Yeah, all the millions of listeners will then start bugging me of why do you not have a puppy yet? But yeah, if you can't tell, I'm the husband, she is the wife, and we're going to be talking about our lives and what's going on. I'm Adam, as you probably already know. I'm an aerospace engineer, which I mentioned in the other podcast, or episode 0. Enjoy a lot of things, Philly sports, or just sports all around, movies, nerd culture. I also dabble in a lot of reading of the scientific community. I'm trying to sound smart here, Marta. I know you don't buy it, but maybe they will. I don't know.
The readers don't know you as well as I do yet.
Readers, they're
listeners. Sorry.
They may read. We may put up blog posts eventually in the future.
That's true.
I know you love writing. You're always good at it, so you should stick with it. So what exactly has been going on in our lives? They may want to know. Do you think they want to know? I mean, that's the reason they're here, right? So
I think so.
So, what the most recent thing we've been dealing with is selling my car, which has kind of been somewhat of an experience, so to speak, because I've never got to experience the whole Craigslist atmosphere, which is what I have now been inundated with. I keep getting questions about if it's still available, That's the number one question I realize when you're selling your car out. Just folks out there, just realize you're going to get asked nonstop if it's available. You may get some broken English questions or maybe just straight up Spanish or a different language. So this has been an interesting experience for me. I think I'll be meeting somebody this upcoming day. I'm not sure how that's going to go. I'm not sure if he's just going to randomly pop up because he secretly knows our address, which would be a little creepy. But what do I do? Because I'm not good with this whole bartering situation. I'm not like your dad where he can talk anybody up or down. He's a lot better at it than I am. So I'm a little nervous because I don't want to go on a test drive where then he or she just walks away like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, I think it's a skill that you probably gain as you have more experience with it. So the first time you sell on Craigslist, it's probably a lot of unknowns and awkward questions. But I imagine, in 20 years, I don't know what you'll be selling on Craigslist in 20 years. But I imagine that by then you'll have more experience and it will be less awkward and less uncertain. Or by then we won't even have a Craigslist. There will be a totally different market for how you sell used goods and cars and all of that stuff.
Which I don't get why Craigslist is a thing. Have you ever gone on their website recently?
The website is horrible.
It looks like it's back out of the 90s. I remember specifically, now that you're talking about that, how it made me laugh because when my parents were moving down to Florida, when they originally were moving, they wanted to You having trouble with the mic over there? What's going on? You good? Okay. So they were trying to sell stuff on Craigslist, and I remember my mom getting absolutely furious at people that would email her because they would just straight up, she's offering, like, say, I don't know, like a couch for $500, and some dude comes in with an email saying, I'll give you $200 cash for it, which I never get. Like, what is that? Like, your goal is hope that she's, like, on a whim, just like, yeah, I'll just drop it $300. Why not drop it even more than half the price? I just don't get that. But hey, doesn't hurt trying.
Go for it. On that person's end, I mean, maybe they could have gotten lucky and they didn't know the situation. But maybe your mom was really trying to get rid of that couch, and she was just $500 was the goal, but she would have sold it for anything.
Yeah, I wonder if Craigslist is going to be a thing in a few years.
We'll see.
'Cause I keep seeing those commercials. You see the commercials where it's I forget the app, but it's where somebody's trying to hold on to a certain appliance, or they're like in the middle of nowhere, and then like they say like, oh, you have to let it go, and then finally like they scroll into like an app, and then they click like, oh, they need to sell it, and then somebody walks up and takes it and goes away. I don't know. Have you ever seen anything like that? No.
I think the app is actually called Let It Go.
Is it called Let It Go?
It's called it's called Let Go. I just looked it up.
Let Go. I think
buy and sell used stuff on the App Store.
Because I think Let It Go will probably be a little copyright infringement. I'm sure Disney would have some issue with using.
Frozen would definitely have some issues with that. The movie Frozen. One of the few movies that I've stayed awake through. I'm proud. Through the about 4 or 5 times that I've seen a movie, I think at this point, through the 4 or 5 times, have seen about 90% of the movie. There are still some fuzzy parts that I always fall asleep during. Maybe they're just not the most interesting plot events of the movie. But
can you name me 4 characters in the movie?
Yes. Elsa, Anna.
You can't search it. What's the snowman? You know the snowman.
Oh, Elsa, Anna, Olaf, and Kristoff, of course. Kristoff is the love interest of Anna.
Not gonna lie, it makes me a little worried that you're saying this as you're staring at your computer screen.
I am simply looking at the show notes just to make sure that I didn't forget anything.
That's not what
crucial.
happened, people. I don't believe her. I don't think that's what happened. But, you know.
Regardless, I was put on the spot, and movie knowledge and movie tidbits is not my strong suit, to be frank.
To be frank, I'm sure that... Let's stop talking about Craigslist. I'm sure nobody wants to hear that. That's why they're here. But we went to a birthday party this weekend, which was kind of exciting. I got to drink a lot of wine. We were supposed to record on that day, but I think I drank a little too much. I got a little too tipsy, and then I got a little too tired later in the evening.
It was entertaining, though. It was a nice car ride back of lots of goofiness. I loved it.
I don't know if it was just all because we have that wine. I specifically bought it because I liked it at the party. Drinking it now, I do not like it. I'm not a fan of it too much. I don't know why I liked it then, but I don't. Maybe it was a different year because that's 2015. I don't know if they had a older year or a newer year, but I'm not too much of a fan of it. It doesn't sit well right in my esophagus. It feels like it burns going down, which is I'm not a fan of. But the main thing that was exciting there, that we, as being kids in adult bodies, that's how it's supposed to go. We went into a moon bounce that they had, which for a 7-year-old's birthday party. I remember when I was 7, I didn't get anything close to that. I've always wanted a trampoline or a moon bounce, but that never materialized. Shout out, Mom. Thanks for that.
Yeah, I always wanted a trampoline too. And then there was always a big insurance issue, and like with the neighbors, what if the neighbors come and jump on it and
liabilities,
all of that.
All things.
But one year, probably around age between 8 and 12, I'm not sure. I can't quite remember how old I was, but I did get a trampoline, and the most exciting part was that there were no liability issues for my parents, because this trampoline was only 3 feet in diameter. So I was very thankful that one of my Christmas wishes or birthday wishes whenever I got this gift came true. The only problem was that I couldn't jump more than about a foot or 2 higher, or maybe even a foot higher than I was. So I couldn't jump. I was probably 4 feet tall at the time, so I couldn't jump higher than 5 feet. I couldn't do flips. If anyone has...
So it was a workout trampoline, basically.
Yeah, but if anyone has experience on a small trampoline, you'll know what I mean. if you don't jump in the exact center, you don't even get any height whatsoever. You get no height if you don't jump literally in the exact center because it's such a small trampoline.
Wow. But besides ranting and raving about getting a small trampoline as a child, it still sticks in your brain how you felt like you were slighted that you didn't get a trampoline. I always was fascinated with the idea of getting like an in-ground trampoline. I always mentioned that as like a future idea, how cool that would be, like dig out of the ground instead of like an indoor pool, have it just like a nice decent sized trampoline just in the backyard, willy-nilly, have a net around it at least so no one falls.
Funny that you say that, because in high school, I think it was someone that was on my swim team, and we had some sort of, it was either like a senior party or a swim team party, I can't quite remember, but we went to this girl's house and she had an in-ground trampoline, and I remember thinking it was really cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Was it in the backyard or was it in their house?
It was in the backyard.
It was in the backyard. Yeah. Was it a large one or was it like a normal size just in the ground?
I think it was pretty large. I think it was a rectangular shape, though, instead of like the circular normal shapes that you see.
Speaking of which, I want to go back to Sky Zone. That place is the bomb.
Park. Oh, I love it. Although, the very first time I heard about trampoline parks, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and I was like, I could live there. I could spend all day there. And then I went to a trampoline park, and maybe 10 minutes in, I was pretty tired. So, I think that those things are either underrated or overrated. I forget the word, but
underrated.
Underrated, yeah.
Because if you overrate something, you're saying you're building it up too much.
You're right. It's underrated because they're really a lot of fun, and you get tired a lot more quickly than you expect. And I'm not someone that's super like the fittest person ever, but I'm also not out of shape. So I think if another averagely in shape person, I'm not average Joe because I'm a woman. Average Donna.
Average Joette.
I don't like that name, personally. Average Donna. If another average Donna were to go, she would also get tired in 10 to 15 minutes. But listeners, let us know. How many minutes can you survive at Sky Zone without getting tired? Just leave us comments in iTunes. Just say like 13 and we'll know what you mean.
That's all. That when they leave 5-star ratings, they'll just say, give us a number, 14. Is that what you want?
No, not really.
Quick question. I had this thought. Moon bounce or trampoline? Which one do you prefer?
I think I prefer a trampoline because the moon bounce, I noticed this weekend when I was jumping, you don't get as much air.
Unless you have a big person in there, because I was bouncing you up real high.
Yeah. And I remember I had a moon bounce at my high school graduation party, which was a lot of fun. But I remember one of my family friends was calling it I forget what he was calling it, but we kept arguing about the name of it. I called it a moon bounce, and he called it something else, which now...
Bouncy castle?
Bouncy castle. That's what he called it. And I was like, it's not a castle. It's a moon bounce. And he was like, you're not bouncing to the moon. It doesn't make any sense. And it was just back and forth. So I'm curious who calls it a bouncy house and who calls it bouncy castle and who calls it a moon
Okay,
bounce.
add that to your rating. Do the number and then put what you call a moon bounce.
So you'll be like 13 bouncy castle.
26 moon bounce.
That would be funny.
We're off to a great start.
I want to submit like a poll just because I'm really curious now.
Funny you say that on Twitter because I was honestly curious. The reliable polling situation that is Twitter. So I got 9 votes, and it was 60% or 67%. So 2/3 said trampoline, a third said moon bounce. So you're
when
basically
did you
in
do
the
this
right.
poll?
A few days ago when I was just thinking about this question that I was going to ask you.
Wow.
Yeah, I think far ahead, baby.
Wow, that's pretty interesting.
I'm committed to this podcasting thing, you know.
But anyways, moon bounces for adults. Super fun. Also, I felt a little bit more... I wasn't sure if I should be appreciative of this question or like feel embarrassed, but one girl that was there who was about probably 12 years old, and she was about the same height, same build as me, asked me how old I was, and then I said my age, which is in the early mid-20s, and then she just looked at me and smiled and was like, cool. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know if she was sad because she thought maybe we could have a sleepover next weekend, and I'm just a little too old to have sleepovers with 12-year-old girls that I don't know. or if she was like cool as in, oh, 20 something sounds old and you're here on the trampoline. Or moon bounce. I don't know. It was a weird situation, and I wasn't really sure what to make of it, but I did think it was funny, and I thought it was cute because I was hanging out with the kids and having a good time, and I didn't know her personally, but I knew my cousin and some of the other family members, so it's not like I was in a trampoline by myself with a bunch of 12-year-olds that I didn't know, like crashing a birthday party. It was not like that.
That's what you do on your weekend. You drive around, look in the backyard, see if you can see a bouncy castle.
It's like wedding crashers, but that's probably even worse. Crashing kids' birthday parties. That's probably worse than crashing.
Who are
weddings.
you? Oh, I don't know.
But yeah. Anyway.
Anywho, shoot. I always forget what I was going to ask. Sometimes when these things happen, but I guess we'll roll on to the final thing that happened this weekend. You actually showed a family friend around the old stomping grounds at the University of Maryland, because that's where we went. And you were talking to me how you felt really nostalgic. I remember when you first graduated, you said you didn't feel nostalgic about all of that. And I was like, it's going to hit you eventually. It depends on where I think where you are in your life, whether you're, reminiscing if you're not in the best of places. Because when I was at the shipyard, I would think about being back on campus because you were still going to college. And I sort of wanted to still be there while you're going, because we lived right basically building across from each other my senior year and your junior year, which was nice because I got to see you every night. So it kind of sucked when I was down like 4 hours away, 4 to 5, depending on traffic. Could have been 6 traffic-wise. That was awful. But just made me reminisce more quickly, I guess, about the University of Maryland, how good times you have in college. Even if you're not into the whole party scene, you still have a great time because you can connect to so many different people and find the right group that works for you. So I know you're feeling nostalgic. You want to go into it?
Yeah. Well, I think you make a good point where as soon as you graduate, at least for me, and I'm sure everyone has a different experience with graduation and starting a new chapter in their life and ending an old one. But I found, especially the last few weeks leading up to graduation, were really stressful finishing up because I studied engineering. So I had a lot of final team projects, capstone, exams, and just a lot going on. And thinking about the prospect of being done with classes and exams and all that stress was exciting. So, I mean, the April before my graduation, I graduated in May of that year, was in April, all I could think about was leaving campus and being done with everything. And then even in May when graduation came, I just felt ready. Like I felt that I'd put in my time, studied really hard, and I was ready for like that next step, which was a summer where I had some travel plans with friends, and then starting my job full time.
Travel plans. She sounds modest. Her travel plans is taking a 3-week trip in Europe, all over
3-week Europe trip, and then 10 days in Peru hiking Machu Picchu.
Yeah. So when she says travel plans, you have to realize Marta means travel plans.
Yeah, but yeah, I think in that time I wasn't thinking about, I really want to be back on campus. Like I was ready to move on with the next step in my life. Not that right now I'm like, I wish I was back in college, but of course everyone is in a different stage in their life. And if you wish you were back at college, more power to you, because college was fun and it was a good time. But anyway, back to this weekend, I was showing around a family friend, and first we drove through campus. So we drove through the main entrance and then around the engineering buildings, since this friend happened to be interested in studying engineering. So I showed around some of the engineering buildings and then kind of drove past the dorms and the football and soccer stadium and all of that. And I don't know, just driving by when I'm so far removed from college, it felt like I missed it, because at that point I didn't remember all of the stress and all the exams and all of that. I just remember all the fun, like meeting new people, hanging out with friends, all the good memories, and even the struggles, like, remember that time we had that exam and the average on the test was a 55 out of 100,
I think also college was a fun time, even when you think back about, like, for us being in engineering, you would have late nights studying with your friends, even though at that time it was sort of kind of really crappy being late, but just doing it with your friends was always a fun thing to do. And in college, a lot of times you have a set regimen of what you need to get done by a certain period of time. You're always looking forward to, oh, well, you need to complete a test, you need to complete this project, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. Whereas now, once you get out of college, it's sort of a little aimless if you don't have things to focus on. So that's why you can always think back to when you're back then, because you're always doing something. You're always with other people. You're always trying to do a project, always trying to do certain things. Even though sometimes in college, being an introvert is not the best situation because you can get a little tired of interacting with so many people. But I remember doing that, and that was always fun.
Yeah, and I think something else that makes college unique compared to life post-graduation, either working or, I guess it doesn't really apply to grad school, but more like if you're working or doing something else after college. But in college, the time is very finite, and it's divided into chunks. So like, exactly when you need to finish certain milestones, and you always have the next thing to look forward to. So at the end of summer, you're looking forward to the fall semester and seeing your friends again and all the activities you do on campus. And then at the end of fall, you're looking forward to that winter break, whether you're just at home with family or friends or doing something on your own or working. So I feel like in college it was different because, like you said, you have always like the next thing to look forward to, always the next thing, where in working life, I'm still getting used to it more than 2 years later, but figuring out how to mark time because you don't have summer breaks, you don't have winter breaks. And personally, I love the winter season. I love Christmas time and just all of the kind of celebratory and celebration and festivities around the holidays. So that I feel like I look forward to every year, but it's not really, other than that, I don't have like specific things during the year that help mark time. It's just like, oh my gosh, it's already June, and I feel like the past 6 months flew by since Christmas.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I was just about to ask. I wonder if that's the fact when you're at work, you don't really have, it feels like it's kind of not the same thing, but it's a lot of the same stuff, same people, whereas with college you would go to different classes with different environment, sometimes different people you have to interact with, whereas work, it's a lot of times the same things, unless like 5 years down the line somebody moves on and you're thinking back, oh wow, I didn't realize it's gone that fast. And I wonder if that's the reason it feels like it goes like that, is just because there's no markers to set, like, oh, this is going to be when we're done here, this is when we're going to be going to this next, I guess, project or next thing that we're doing. Whereas in this case, it's sort of work. It's a long-term, because I'm sure in certain environments like contract workers, they're moving from project to project, but these projects aren't like on the short regimen as college classes are. These are 2, 3, 4 year long projects where then you finally move on and you think back like, oh man, 4 years went by real quick. And the only gauge I guess you can have is when, I guess like you said, when Christmas comes around and you have that break or a travel plan to look forward to. But other than that, you're not breaking into like, oh, this is fall semester, now you have a break, and then spring semester and things of that nature. Makes things go by a lot quicker. Until you get a gigantic podcast that has a bunch of millions of listeners. And then you can do whatever you want. That's ours, basically. I am optimistic, so to speak. So I always also think about this when it comes to college, since we're on the topic. When you mentioned, like, oh, they're supposed to be your best times of your life. And I've always wondered, is that actually the case? Like, are they supposed to be? Or is it just because that's when you, at that time, you have responsibilities, but they're not responsibilities of when you get into the workforce and doing a lot of different things. And I'm wondering if a lot of times people look back at college because they didn't have as many responsibilities, so they could go out, do a lot of different things, have a fun time, and just focus on their classes. Sometimes the classes aren't hard for people, so they don't have to put as much effort into it, and they can just go enjoy the free time galore. And then when work comes around, they're not, used to having to go to work 24/7, and the fact that, they're not, because you see all the time now, people in their 20s, 30s are not a fan of what they're doing, and then they look back positively on college like, oh, I really enjoyed doing that, even though you didn't know what you wanted to do with your life at that point either, but at least you had free time to experience new things, do different things with people that you enjoy. And I'm wondering, maybe if there's a shift, if you eventually start doing what you love at work, like, do you ever stop thinking about college? Like, oh, maybe once you start doing what you love, maybe you think back on college as a good time, but not like, oh, this is the best time of my life. Because me personally in college, I never wanted that to be my best time, because that means life after is not up to snuff with what you're doing at college. And I don't think that's the best way to go about life, is thinking in the past of how great it was. You should try to strive to make your present and your future even better.
I would agree with that. And also, I think if you, for example, you said, is college expected to be the best time, or is that of your life, or do people experience that and therefore keep saying that, and that idea kind of gets spread around to people? But I think in general, if the idea that college is the best time of your life is kind of spread to our generation, and older people think that, and also if we share that idea with the younger generation, so students in high school, middle school, elementary school, and younger than that, they probably aren't thinking about college too much. But if you're a 10-year-old and you hear someone say, oh, college is the best time of your life, and then you're in high school and you hear someone say, oh, college is the best time of your life, I think that A, puts a lot of pressure on you that, hey, you have to go to college, because not everybody needs to go to college. Not everyone feels that they need to, and everyone has their own path, I think, and I don't think everybody needs to. I mean, do whatever you want and do what you think is best for you and your family and your future. But A, it puts a lot of pressure on someone to both go to college and then have this experience that makes it, that's like the best time of their life. But also, after the fact, then it's kind of, you're almost expecting that life after college will never get better. And I think that that's kind of dangerous to think like that, because then you'll kind of just be stuck in this rut of, oh, I'm going to work, or oh, I'm doing this project, or whatever you're working on at that time in your life, and you're just expected that not to be as happy. Where if you constantly think like that and you have those thoughts, then you never will be happy, because sometimes what you think about and what you kind of dream about, even those negative thoughts, I think they come to fruition because you're putting that kind of negativity and those thoughts in your mind, and eventually what you think about is going to be what you're living.
And if you're focusing on that, you're going to be able to pinpoint certain things that don't match up to what you expect. And I feel like a lot of times people go to college without the understanding of what they want to do with their life. I mean, a lot of times it's thrust upon new high school graduates like, oh yeah, you need to go to college, but a lot of times they go and have no clue what they want to do. They have no clue if what they're doing major wise is anything that they want to do the rest of their lives, and that's, you see all the time. And I feel like it's strange, the idea that you have to go to college, where a lot of the stuff, at least the social aspect of it, a lot of the subjective courses, in my opinion, I don't know if you gain that much doing it in a college setting, versus a lot of times now you can go online and YouTube and other different sites where you can get, different professors from all over the world just saying the same subject but having a different take on it, and you can gain a lot of knowledge that way. Whereas things where they're more math-based or science-based, you still need to go to college. But I just think it starts, maybe in high school, where a lot of kids don't know exactly what to do. And I was always jealous of the kids that are always set in their ways. They're like, yes, I want to be a doctor since I was like 5, and I still have the drive and motivation to become a doctor and do that the rest of my life. And I'm like all for it. But some kids, they're only 18, 19 going into college, and they're supposed to know what their life entails in the future, and they're supposed to just go at it. Having fun with that pop filter.
Just trying to adjust it. But yeah, I would agree with that. But it's just, especially now more than ever, that the statistics are showing that, like, more students are going to college and there's more college graduates and all of that. But also the tuition is rising, so I feel like that puts more pressure on incoming students, whether or not they're financing their own college, or there's grants and scholarships that they received, or their parents are paying for all of it. Whatever the situation is, I feel like either way, you still have a lot of pressure to not only graduate as soon as possible and find what you want to do, but also like find friends or activities that you enjoy and all of that. So I think it's a lot of pressure. Looking back, I don't wish to relive the years of the stresses of like going to college visits and making all those big decisions, because honestly, as a 17 or 16-year-old, however old you are, junior and senior year, you're making decisions that are going to impact not only the next 4 years of your life if you decide to go to college, but also thereafter, because on your resume, it's always going to say where you graduated from.
And I feel like it's always frowned upon when people ask that question of like, oh, what do you want to do with your life? And if you respond with, I'm not quite sure, it seems like it's always frowned upon, just because, you know, you're supposed to, at that time, everyone expects you to understand what you're supposed to know what you want to do. So sometimes I feel like a lot of people just sort of give a BS answer as what they think they should be doing, so to speak, from like outside influences, and then they go down that rabbit hole and they're not happy with it. And I'm always wondering, like, would they be? There's certain subjects where you get paid less, graduating with that certain degree. But I've always wondered if somebody goes down a rabbit hole where they're not into the major, but it's a good major where they'll get paid pretty well, versus going down their passion project way, their passion major, if they want to be, I don't know, like a journalist or something that pays a lot less, especially starting out. Would they actually, at the end of their career, be more successful going full bore in their passion, committing it 100% just because they have the passion for it, versus, getting into this career that they're not too excited about? They're just doing it for the money. And I feel like you see that all the time, where a lot of people don't do as well because they just don't have the drive to be in that position or try to move up in that position. They're just sort of coasting along, so to speak.
Yeah, and it depends, I think, how you define success, right? If you define success as making a lot of money and being financially stable for yourself and your significant other or your future family or whoever is part of your life at that point, if you define success as making a lot of money, then you would be more successful with that job, that one option that you said, where it's a job and you're moving up and you're making more. But if you define success as fulfillment, self-fulfillment, and happiness, and day-to-day, like, happiness with life and being excited to wake up in the morning, then I think, in your example, like the journalist that goes off and kind of gives 120%, 200% or whatever to their own self-passion project and kind of builds something up from the ground up instead, I think then that person is a lot more successful because they're happier, they feel fulfilled that they had a goal and worked towards accomplishing it. But unfortunately, it's not that easy, where you can't just say, or a lot of people don't have the opportunity to just start from nothing and build something up, because you're still responsible for having somewhere to live, paying for either rent or a mortgage and food and all of the bills and stuff. So it's hard to start from zero unless you kind of have that environment and that ability financially to do that.
Yeah, but I always wondered if people always look for excuses to not do certain things. When they have a passion project where they think about it, and they always get to the point where they might do it, but then they always think about A, B, C, and D reason not to. Whereas at the end of the day, I feel like the main reason that should trump everything is your happiness or your drive to want to do this. And I honestly believe that if you put in enough effort, enough time, and you keep at it because you truly believe in something, you'll at a certain point make it. Unless you're putting in, certain businesses you see on Shark Tank where they're putting in millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, when, certain businesses don't take off, and you may need to skew your next project a different way instead of putting in millions of dollars. But, yeah, that's just my 2 cents. What do I know?
I think that's a good attitude. The only thing I would add, just to be more realist and not Debbie Downer, because I don't think it's a Debbie Downer thing to say, but I think
you're the realist of the two.
I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. I think
you need a good combination of an optimist and a realist. I think some days you're the big optimist about certain things, and other days I'm the big optimist.
Yeah. But anyway, I think that in addition to what you said in terms of having that passion and going for it and doing what you want, I think, especially if you're starting a business, I think something important to consider is the demand and what kind of business you're going to have. And if it's a true business where you're like selling products or services, you need to make sure that the business that you're offering is actually in need, because you could put in 110% and start a business. I don't know. I can't think of something that's very popular and would be hard to get into the market too. I'm sure there's lots of stuff out there. But if you're going into a market that's already very competitive in your area or online, and you're just this tiny little fish, it might take a lot more than getting into a market that's a little bit less developed and stuff like that. So I think it just depends. I mean, there's obviously a lot of factors. But yeah, if you put in all the effort, I don't see why you can't make it. I just wouldn't invest all of my eggs into one metaphorical stock basket.
Good job. Good podcasting move right there. That was quality, babe.
Thank you.
You're just a pro at it now. You're just yeah.
Just like with that, all this motivational talk. The more practice, the better you get. The more effort and time you put into it, the better it will be. Wow, we could be motivational podcasters. Although I think after a while, once you listen to enough motivational podcasts, speeches, videos, I think at some point you just get to that point where you're so ready to go and you're so motivated and you just feel like you're going to do it, that you just get like analysis paralysis almost, where you don't know where to start. You feel really motivated and you got all this energy, but you just don't know, what do I do now? How do I start this business, or how do I start this side project? So
say take it one small step at a time.
What's the first step?
Research. That's the first step.
Okay, folks, if you're feeling really motivated by all these all this back and forth and motivation, the first step is research. My favorite is pro and cons list.
Oh my goodness. But I think in what I was trying to say or get at is research and try to figure out the best way to go forward, like what steps you need, and then break those steps even into smaller steps, more digestible chunks that you can get done and feel more motivated that you accomplish certain things each and every day. Because I feel like a lot of people want to get stuff done right that very second they get motivated. That very second they want everything to rush in, and I'm a culprit of this all the time too, where I want a certain thing right now, where a lot of times you kind of have to be patient and just, if you truly believe in it, just keep trucking, keep moving day after day after day after day, keep doing what you want. And like I always hear that it's not going to be easy throughout the whole process. There's going to be, life is going to come at you hard in different directions. And I always hear that most of the time people make it right after they had the most difficult point in the whole process. So a lot of people do give up when it gets real difficult, and you never know if you made it over that hump, if you'll actually get to that point. Because a lot of times you always, and you could always think back at like, what if I just kept going, what would have happened? So if you truly believe in it, I think keep trucking and try to just keep moving. I don't know where this topic came from, but I like it. I like giving motivational talks.
And I think there's a famous, I don't know if it's a quote or what it's from, but they always say it's always darkest before the dawn.
There it is.
And I think that is perfect because, well, you get it. It's a metaphor. I don't have to explain it.
Should we get into sort of what I brought to this proverbial table? Proverbial?
So it's not really a proverbial table.
Making me look bad. Goodness, you could tell who the smarter one is in this conversation just by listening to us. It's Marta, just as a hint. But so what I sort of, for the first topic, even though we got into deep conversations, so I guess we'll lighten it up in something more lighthearted, something that we found. So what I was going to talk about is like a book fair. It's located in Mount Crawford, Virginia. According to their site, quote, the Green Valley Book Fair is a discount book outlet store featuring over 500,000 new books at an incredible bargain price. You save up to 90% off retail on over 30,000 different titles in more than 60 different categories, including fiction, history, all the categories and such. I know it says that. You can take our word for it. They actually have a lot of new books, which is kind of cool. So should we give a background exactly how we stumbled upon this? I think we were driving we were taking a drive through Shenandoah Valley, right? That's what happened. Was that the trip when it started downpouring when we were at, I think that was it, where we had to stop and then pull off the Park Skyway Drive just because it was, just because it was pouring. And we were staying at a bed and breakfast, was it Joshua Wilton House. I looked it up. It was near JMU, and I was able to find it. I actually highly recommend it. It was very cute. And it was the day that we were leaving to come back, right? Or we're gonna go drive through. I can't quite remember, but I think we were coming back, and we were walking out the bed and breakfast. I just happened to look over, and I saw book fair, and I just grabbed a little pamphlet, and we saw where the address was. I was like, why not? Let's be spontaneous and go check it out. So we start driving. I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think it was going to be anything of my wildest imaginations of what just happened. So we start taking these dirt paths to get there. And I think, Marta, you made a comment how you were a little sketched out. You thought we may be going into a sketchy area and may not make it back, from what I remember, because there was a lot of dirt paths and just in who knows where. And I guess I'll just keep going. So we pull up to a gigantic barn, basically. It was ginormous, and it was two gigantic barns, I believe, connected by like a hallway. And we walked in, and you just see books upon books upon books. And you see that when you picked up a book, and each book was basically like $3.50, $4. And I know, Marta, you got pretty excited.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, it was a giant barn, like Adam said, and there were so many books. And at first, when I saw some of the prices, I thought, this has to be some sort of like older book collections, and they probably don't have anything new or up to date or any of the newest releases. But not only did they have a lot of newer books and new releases, but they also had all of the different genres up along the walls of the barn book fair type setting that we were in. So naturally I ran to the baking section, because online, well, first of all, in more traditional bookstores, a lot of those good cookbooks with like the good quality page, like the glossy pages and the good pictures, they're expensive. And then even on Amazon, where I found some books are cheaper than in the classic bookstores, Amazon can still be expensive, but they're literally like quality books that I looked at the back, and the original price was in the like $20 or $30 range. Some $4, some up to $6 or $7, but still a really good deal. And that was fun. We got to walk around, just explore.
Fun. It was awesome. It was heaven, basically. They had a bunch of puzzles too, which you're a fan of.
Yeah, it was very cool.
I think we've gone back there twice now. It was just sort of amazing to me. I did not expect that in my wildest dreams. I bought plenty of books that are on my bookshelf that we still have yet to get through the back catalog of all the books, just because we're sort of in the same boat here, where we bite off more than we can chew when it comes to books, where we like, oh yeah, I'm going to read that. And then we realize, oh crap, we have 15 books to get through, and we're still buying more on Amazon and on our Kindle. So yeah, that's basically right. I just need a nice, long, relaxing vacation where I'll just read them all in one go-round. Because I feel like that's where I get most of the reading done, is if I'm sit and like it's like a beach vacation. So you'll probably like that, but where you don't have much entertainment besides reading or just swimming or doing things of that nature. That's where I've always read through books, especially if I go on vacations with my parents. Back when I was younger, I would get through like 3 or 4 different books in just one trip. I know you were saying before, you told me that you've done that before too.
Yeah. Not just for beach vacations, but pretty much any trips that we went on when I was younger. And when you're younger, at least when I was younger, I would have my parents help me pack a little bit, or at least I would do the first round of packing, and then they would come in and be like, why do you have 20 shirts for a week? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, I can't decide, and all of that. But also, I would literally pack like 5 or 6 books for a week, and my parents were like, you're not going to read this many books probably, and they were right, but I just couldn't decide. Just like with the 20 shirts, I needed 6 books. Was I going to finish 6? No, probably I would get through maybe 1, maybe.
So I can blame your parents for instilling you with the idea that when you pack, you need way more than you actually need. You need 20 times more than what you need.
20 times? No, like 3 times more. Because I needed
At least you're honest.
for 7 days.
But you did good on our honeymoon. You actually passed pretty stingently.
That's true. Just a random aside, for packing for a honeymoon, we were away for about 12 days in Europe, and we both packed 1 carry-on and 1 personal item where we put an iPad, a book, our documents and stuff. So 1 carry-on, 1 personal item. If people are interested, we can do an episode on exactly how we packed and what we packed.
And our whole trip, especially going through the crappy London airport, but I don't want to go through that right now because I'll just
positive vibes, people. Positive vibes.
But if anybody's interested out there, I'd sort of put together a little brief history about the Green Valley Book Fair in and of itself. I know Marta's probably fallen asleep, but some people are interested in that. Marta, I know you're not a big fan of history, but I am. I like to know where things come from when I drive different places and I look at old buildings. I like to imagine what it was like back in its heyday. So thank you very much. Indulge me. You can fall asleep. I'll read. So originally the company was known as Green Valley Auctions. It started up in 1967 by Leighton and Catherine Evans. Just 4 years later, the first Green Valley Book Fair was started, mainly as a way to sell the large used book collection that Leighton had amassed over time. These first fairs were held in a barn that is actually still on the property today. The cow stalls were torn out from the bottom of the barn shelves, and the shelves were built in their stead to hold the books. People were packed shoulder to shoulder trying to make their way through the barns to purchase these books. Per the Washington Post article, over time they developed a relationship with different book companies and it just continued to grow from there. They expanded in 1985 to an 8,000 square foot facility for the book fair and auction. Until 1997, they built an even larger facility, a 22,000 square feet facility. In 2009, Greg Evans, the son of Leighton and Catherine's, became the sole owner of Green Valley Auction and started the Green Valley Moving Company. So, fun fact. And I think the allure of the book fair in of itself is the fact that it's not 24/7 every single day. They have, if you look at pamphlets or go into their site, it's a certain time. So there's one going on now. It's like June to July, and then it ends for a few months, and then comes back like October to November. I don't know the exact dates, but I feel like that's the main draw. Is you don't get it all the time. It's not like a Barnes and Noble where you can just show up and get books. You have to go at a certain period of time, and I just think it's cool that when you check out, they have like a big. Remember last time we were there? They're big like a map of the United States, or was it the world? It was the United States, and they were putting pins of where people came from. And it was just crazy to see how many pins from all over the world went to this book fair. And I guess word is around about this, and it's a pretty cool place. So I just wanted to give it a shout out, and that's why I sort of brought it to this podcast, so to speak.
Yeah, and after that first time that we first discovered it, I think when we were driving somewhere else for a road trip, we stopped on the way back. Almost on a whim, though. We were just driving, and then we remembered it's in Virginia, and it's off of Interstate 81, I believe. So we were driving north on 81 back to the good old state of Maryland, and we were in Virginia. We were driving, and I think we were going to stop either for a rest break or to get gas or something anyway, and then we remembered that the book fair was nearby, and then we checked, and it just happened to be one of the periods where it was open, so we stopped. And I think we were there probably for around an hour. I mean, it's huge, and even if you're not buying a million books, it's still nice to walk around and explore what's there. So highly recommend it. It's definitely I would drive there just for a day trip, and it's near JMU, so it's near I'm blanking on the name of the town in Virginia where James Madison University is. Harrisonburg. That's right.
I actually kind of wanted to say that, but I wasn't positive. I didn't want to make myself look like a fool if I was wrong.
Yep, Harrisonburg, Virginia. Which was
I think it's kind of cool that it seemed like when we first went there and we talked to the cashier, it seems like this company or the main goal is giving back to the community. That's why they hold these book fairs. A lot of people in the area like to come and buy these books, and they like to just do a lot of things in the community. I saw like a quote on their auction site is that they donate a minimum of $100 from every auction to a local charitable organization that they believe helps the community grow stronger, which I feel like just continues to, add to the idea that they're just trying to give back to that area. And honestly, I was trying to look at other places that offer like discount books in our area right now, even though we're going to be heading to other places soon. But there's one place called the Book Thing of Baltimore. Apparently it has all free books. They take donations from people who have no need for some books, and they just read them and give them back to people who have interest in them. And then the Dailies in Columbia, Maryland, according to the Washington Post, is like Green Valley Book Fair, but open all year. So maybe we should check that out before we go, because I'm sort of interested, but I don't know. Was that a good topic to bring? I don't know, but I'm sure people like to hear about it, and if you're on the East Coast, go check it out, because it's not too difficult of a drive to get there, especially in Virginia. It's kind of flat.
And if you want more information, you can check out their website, which is gobookfair.com. So that would be pretty cool if eventually someone that has been to that book fair listens to this, because then they can relate, and they can also reach out to us and comment if they enjoyed it as much as we did.
Add it to the 5-star rating, just yes or no if you enjoy the Green Valley Book Fair. So now it's going to be 13. Bouncy Castle, yes.
Yep, and only the people that have heard this episode will understand that comment. People that may be starting further down the line in the podcast will read comments that are hopefully 5 stars, and they'll say 13 Bouncy Castle, yes. And
we'll know you're from the OG episode of Husband and Wife Talks, or the Hot Podcast, if you want to be short and brief. Look at that branding, babe. I came up with that title. I did a good job. Great job. Speaking of which, if you're listening on iTunes, please go give us a rating, 5-star. We already talked about it plenty of times, what you need to write in the comments, so we know that you're an OG listener. You can follow us on Twitter at HotPod. Hot is HAWT, pod. Simple enough. And we have a Facebook page, facebook.com/HotPodcast, I believe. Or if you search Hot Pod, Husband and Wife Talks will come up. You can find us listening to us on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, the Podbean website, which is hot.podbean.com. And then also, if you want to support us in a different way, you go to patreon.com/hot podcast. So yeah, go check us out there. There's more information actually on the Patreon site, and see if you want to support us, there's more information of what you can get in that fashion, but I don't want to go too much into it. You can find that out for yourself. But other than that, I think this has been a good first episode, babe. I think that we did a great job. You enjoy it?
yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, you got the nerves out. We've been going for about 50-some minutes now, so that's pretty impressive. So yeah, this was fun. So I'm glad all you hot listeners stuck with us. So I guess we can say goodbye. Marta, do you want to take us out?
Goodbye, folks. I'm not sure what day of the week it is, but have a happy day no matter when you're listening.
Well, it's going to come out on Tuesday.
But they might be listening on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
That's true. We're an everyday podcast, so you can listen to us. It doesn't need to be a set day. Yeah. We just go all the time. I don't know. All right. Bye.